Blessed love and peace. We back at it. We done just did it again. The bus just done came and went. Um, and here we are. So we got another, depending how it's running, 20 minutes to 45 minutes to an hour and a half. We'll see. So meanwhile, I'm going to share this joint that we got going on. Breakthrough conversation with none other than mi madre. And it go a little something like this. Now, this is facts. This is what we talk about. It's on the topic of relationship, marriage, and sex. Oidi, serious. Would you be surprised? Probably not. If you have some familiarity with what we talk about in this joint. Anyways, I'm just gonna give the takeaway first, straight up front, and then endeavor, God willing, to share how the arrival at that work product. So the takeaway is this: something I've been wrestling with for a long time, for a while, to be honest, through today, but it becomes obvious, or it becomes further clear. I can see clearly now, the rain is gone, somewhere around there. Anyway, here it is, about relationship, marriage, sex. What I recognize with myself, like the frustration in terms of dealing with sister, is perceiving, observing, recognizing, understanding how ready many sisters are to have sex very immediately. Oftentimes that day, oftentimes maybe the next day, or within the week, depending on game. And the frustration is if sisters have that readiness to have that type of commitment, to put sisters out like that, then what is the hesitation? What is all the shade and the vitriol and the animosity and the obstruction about talking about marriage? If a woman is ready to have sex that day, the next day, within the week, what's the problem about getting married? And that's something that's been frustrating. But that's what it's recognizing that, all right, that's the one thing. And just understanding that that's what the frustration is. And so even though it's kind of intuitively known, to be able to specifically articulate it helps to be patient and recognizing that just because a woman, the further healthy thing to recognize is that it's beneficial, particularly in society, the way the conditions are outside of the arranged marriage, and additionally, it's beneficial to get to know the people and to have patience, and not to force or hurry up or otherwise a woman in a relationship and getting to know oneself, myself particularly, not to try to be charismatic. Not to try to be charismatic, not to try to be transcendentally spiritual and just say the cosmos is in this flux or anything else like that, but to let it take its time and be patient, and not to give any kind of pressure, even in a healthy commitment, particularly in a healthy commitment. And so that's one thing, and to recognize that. That it's fine not to rush, and it's okay not to rush, and not to be so pressurized in terms of making a decision and a commitment. And just because women may be willing to have sex with somebody that day, the next day, or within the week, obviously it's not healthy, and doesn't mean she necessarily wants to do that. But conditions are such in society, in terms of being in, as we talked about before, circles and networks, and additionally that she's that. So just because that's the way things are and that's what she's in the midst of it at the moment, doesn't mean, that doesn't equate to her that she should be willing to have a conversation about marriage in a similar expediency. And so that's one thing. Now on the flip side, on my side, from where I'm coming at, recognizing that what's the reason for that, like, we recognize the legitimacy in patience and not rushing. And additionally, so what's the hurry? Like, what's all the pressure on this side to have that type of confirmation? A few things. One, unsteadiness of where we're at, and just like the hostilities from many different sides that affect our living conditions, and additionally, such that there's not less of that availability, at least up to this point, of just taking time and like, okay, day in, day out, we'll see each other the next day, or keep call or whatever else. We deal with static situations where it's difficult to make those type of plans and to follow through on those type of plans, particularly in devoting those intentions and that communication in the tender stages of establishing a relationship, when building trust and regularity and follow through. In addition, just to getting to know each other. In addition, so that's one thing. Just like stress and hectic conditions. In addition to that, we also are experiencing or aware of the obstructions for healthy relationship, particularly when just meeting somebody comparatively by happenstance, rather than through school or a regularly structured environment that's where there's regular interaction. So in those circumstances, in personal experience, what we observe is just in beginning a communication with somebody, a woman, when I begin a communication with a woman, and further, once doing that, and once kinfolk see some type of mutual interest, and like they're building something there, there emerges so much shade and obstruction from many different places, and just so much vitriol just towards healthy relationship off rip, because that's how society is at this moment, extremely antagonistic towards healthy relationship. So that's been the other concern, that those two factors, the static and instability, volatility in the environment, and particularly the obstruction and shade towards healthy relationship. So it's because of that, and that there's been that pressure, and that hurriedness about confirming commitment. And additionally, because if it doesn't happen at that moment, when there's direct interaction and communication, there's the expectation of just volatility on our home front side, and then obstruction in terms of being able to connect with each other at a further point and at a regular point. So that being said, that's what the AHA kind of arrival is, and so the resolution is we're already hunkering down within the homestead front at this point, and so further cultivating the regularity in terms of just focusing on the priorities, not reaching out once a week on the online, focusing on spiritual discipline, and otherwise. So in that, it's just a matter of, again, walking with God and stepping on faith. And so meeting any sisterin who has the inclination within that environment, and inviting the regularity. Not the phone situation. We can meet for coffee, water, park, or whatever else, but and play it by ear and see how that flows. So there's further, particularly within ourselves, there's further stability and a calmness, even amidst recent dust being kicked up and everything. Our obligations, how we put ourselves out, and how we reach out, and additionally, is actually further honed in, and so we are preparing for like laying low, particularly in the next few months as the political scene starts to unravel, and cats get further stressed with that stuff. Stack up our rice, stack up our beans. Don't have to go to the store, keep it copacetic. So that's where we're at mind-wise. So that being said, I was about to say something else, but I mentioned like talking about the details of the conversation that leads to the AHA joint. So I'm trying to think of the other thing that I think about to share. What that is? Oh yeah, I'm going to share it now whilst I think about it. One reason that's observed for myself, why spending time in this particular location, it's because of global consciousness. There being like a global vibration here, kinfolk from around the world being here, young kinfolk that is increasingly honest being here. So that's one thing, and particularly young sistren, a femininity, a youthful feminine energy, and consciousness and life, vibrancy in this vicinity. And that's a strong reason for me being here. Now, one of the challenges of being here is that it's very elitist. Kinfolk are very attached to class, money, and high-income technology particularly. This is a STEM university, and so it's very mathematical. It's less intuitive in terms of arts, humanities, which is where our kind of joint gets categorized. So even though there's that vibrancy, that vibration from youthful world consciousness, and particularly the feminine energy from around the world, there's that challenge because many of the sisters are very steeped in the classism and the STEM, and that's not shade. That's just like part of the challenge of relatability otherwise, and in addition to just everything else, age and whatever else. So that's one reason for being here, is because of those reasons. That's one reason, because of those reasons. Let's see, what else we got on this joint? And also, in recent days, it's revisited amidst everything that I say. I stand by everything I say. Ain't no hate on that, and they know it's facts. Everything I say about class apartheid, and additionally, I also talk about being enveloped in it, and working to distance as much as possible. But at the same time, there's a relevancy, not just in terms of connecting with kinfolk here, even on a vibration level, but also institutionally, helping facilitate, optimize social order and civil order. That's part of our responsibility, and that's part of the benefit that the institution and the community around the institution gains with my presence here, specifically. So there's always an exchange. There's no such thing as a free lunch. I do observe how there's a much clearer vibration. There's a much stronger positive vibration when not using the devices and being in the chill out spots. Now I go here particularly to catch online, particularly when the weather is inclementable outside. However, the vibration is much further clear and positive, generally speaking, without using devices. I think even just people seeing things, observing when there's no phone and everything, it's like further comfortable. And further relaxed. So there's appreciation for that. We're gonna be cutting it. We're gonna be cutting it. Maybe not. It's a Thursday. DBW. We gotta make sure we got on this storage joint. So we're almost completed actually. We on 7. We on the 7. All right. So topic, the specific substance of the conversation about relationship, marriage, and sex. So basically, I pose a couple case studies or ethical studies, and so basically, I pose a first question, which is if young sistren go onto a bus and wear revealing clothing, not completely atrocious, but just revealing clothing, and it's very potent in terms of seduction. Is that legal? Is that permissible? Is that acceptable? So many would say, of course. It's the norm. It's what's going on. It's not illegal. So there's that. Okay, fine. Here's a follow-up question. If that's the case, a brethren who sees a sister, who's influenced the sister, and intends honor, a respectful response to the sister, approaches the sister and shares a proposal of marriage. Very honest, sincere, genuine, respectable, honorable. Is that okay? Is that permissible? Now at that point, if he says it verbally or if he gives a written proposal, Some people might say, nah, he's invading her privacy. That's inappropriate. To suggest such a thing is too much pressure on her. And additionally, people might vary in answering that second question. But hold up. If a sister has the personal prerogative to express herself, regardless of how it affects other people, how it harms other people, how it turns other men on, and it's difficult for the other men to be disciplined otherwise. If it's in her prerogative to do that to the harm of other brethren and sistren, then what about a brethren who's being genuine and honest and honorable, expressing himself and his proclivity for honorable relationship and marriage accordingly? Is it not the same? He's not making physical contact, right? He's not being threatening. He's being very polite and respectful. What's wrong about that? And that's something to talk about, because the expectation, generally speaking, is for people to say, no, it's inappropriate. What are you talking about, marriage? That's crazy. Crazy talk. However, at the same time, wait, hold up. It's crazy to talk about a committed relationship. What? It's like that. So, anyways, call people out on that double standard and in the contradiction. And how unhealthiness, unhealthy behavior, unhealthy expectations, unhealthy interaction is normalized and becomes the public opinion. And healthy relationship, committed relationship, and then having that conversation is looked down upon, is looked at with suspicion and scrutiny, and additionally. So, anyways, there's that. Now, we got into further scenarios to kind of further elucidate some of these points here. So one of the further examples is, I got quiet all of a sudden. One of the further examples is another scenario where a man, a brethren, and sister meet at a conference, and they're like, it's like kindred spirits. Like they vibe on all these different levels, their life work, like their spiritual path, and additionally they talk for hours and hours and hours and hours, and to the point where like it's all the way like into the middle of the night, and eventually like they're just so into each other. The brethren goes into the sister's hotel room. It's all mutually consensual, invited. They're in the headspace. They're gone. They're already one at that point, and then they consummate that conversation, have sexual intercourse. So is that illegal, or is that appropriate? And then another scenario is, so he didn't propose marriage right up front, but at the same time, that same day, they have sexual intercourse. Now, further version of that scenario, same thing. They go back to the hotel, have consummation of the conversation. Then few weeks later, or whatever, she gives him a call saying she's pregnant. Is it appropriate for him to propose marriage at that point? From what happens on that first night. So there's that. Now, another version of that scenario is if the same situation all the way up to the hotel room, he goes to the hotel room and they're about to consummate the marriage, or excuse me, they're about to consummate the conversation, and then he says, "Yo, hold on, stop. I gotta get my head together. We should wait. I want to wait till marriage. We should like be committed to each other before we have this type of intimacy." And additionally, and so she says, "Yeah, you're right. Thank you." So they decide to hold off, but they get engaged. They get engaged and decide to marry each other. And they decide to take time in completing that arrangement, meeting parents and family and everything else, and going through the rounds and taking time. But already that first night, instead of having sex, instead of being pregnant, they get engaged. So is that okay? Now we could bring it back to like 360, back to the initial scenario, and say, what if the brethren like just approaches the sister on the bus, meeting her for the first time, and just cracks a joke? He got game. He can talk. She's cool. She's comfortable. She's copacetic with him talking with her, and it turns out like they vibe, and they decide the whole group, her friends and the dude and brethren, all of them. He takes them out to dinner, all of them, And like the same thing. Like by the time it's all completed, like he's like, yo, marriage. So, anyways, point is recognizing how accustomed people are to unhealthy versions and unhealthy scenarios and unhealthy norms, and how suspicious, how distrusting, how averse, how obstructive, how antagonistic, how loathsome kinfolk are to healthy relationships. And recognizing just meeting someone over at that moment and making lifetime decisions is rather severe, but at the same time not to be so condemning of doing that, because it's a healthy alternative towards what's going on right now with seduction and everything else like that, even when there's no interaction between the brother and sister in that particular instance, because from that moment it feeds itself and it manifests itself in further unhealthy ramifications, consequences, cause and effects through the experience of seduction and further. So anyways, that's the joint. Now, one other thing from there, gotta think about this. So what is also another takeaway from the conversation is this: some people kind of just are floating in life. And it's not hating, it's no shade. I don't think it's out of bus. So some kinfolk are just floating in life. I mean, it doesn't mean they're wanderers or vagrants or whatever, but they don't think about big things. Don't think about big questions too tough. Ain't trying to think about all that. They might value relationship, family, and that's it. Not trying to think about too much about God, big questions or whatever else. If they need something, they might go to a clergy or whatever else, but they don't have everything about life. They haven't thought about things that deep. They're not trying to. They just focus on work and take care of their responsibilities, and that's it. That's fine. So when such kinfolk, particularly when being young, approach the experience or the prospect of being married, like very often that same mindset of like not having everything figured out, it requires taking time, getting to know people and getting acclimated and comfortable. And additionally, to be honest, actually some people are on that boyfriend-girlfriend thing, particularly at a young age, and need to be in a relationship, and so are very quick to jump into a relationship just because not wanting to be by oneself. And additionally, so anyways, for some people it takes time, particularly for those who haven't thought things out, who aren't trying to like figure like the big questions and the big answers in life. And additionally, now that being said, on the flip side, there are people who are big thinkers, not just big thinkers, but big questers, big journeyers, and think about the questions and have answers to that, and have a lot of the points of life figured out, and may not have all the details or whatever, because it's not like that, but just have the big things figured out and know like guidance. And additionally, and so for such kinfolk, it's less of a necessity of a lot of questions, a lot of figuring out. It's a matter of finding somebody who's on that same wavelength, and when the kinfolk find that, let's roll. That's it. Don't have to ask a lot of questions. Don't have to have a lot of convo. People are already on the wavelength, and it speaks for itself. And so it's like, okay, cool, let's go. Marriage, there it is. I can't speak from experience per se, because I myself haven't been ready for a long time. And then it's a matter of finding somebody on that wavelength. Now, to be honest, as I'm thinking about this, I'm riffing right now, what is recognized is that for men, it often takes a lot of like life experience, a lot of study, a lot of discipline, a lot of tripping, a lot of falling and getting up, and a lot of pain and sorrow and balance and reconciliation and like discipline. So it's like it takes a long time. And oftentimes these gray hairs. Now for sistren, to be honest, what I observe in life is that sistren are already on it. Particularly young sistren, virgins, who are quiet, unassuming, reserved, protected, sheltered, but already have things figured out. And it's just a matter of being presented in partnership, proposal of marriage. And there, for those such type of sistren, there's a lot of protections, and rightfully so. So there's less interaction, less occasions of meeting brethren just comparatively randomly or whatever else. It's generally through arrangements, staged, secure events, community gatherings, family gatherings, and additionally. And marriage is arranged accordingly. 15, 16, 17 years old. But she already not only has, the thing is, she doesn't have to have the things figured out. She's been raised in a community, in a family and community where things are guided. It's not a lot to figure out. She's lived it already for 15 years. Got 15 years of experience, and she knows what her role is: taking care of the children, cleaning the house, working things out with the husband, and further. And it's for the husband to answer those questions in life. I might have to roll now. This is me. Bye. Peace.